All right. Thanks for joining. Lots of questions. I wish the questions, would have been asked during the other screens, but I can't see all the chats. You have to remember, or you probably don't know, I'm actually right now broadcasting to 14 different spots, right? Including the gamer sites. Go figure. Trovo and Kick. People are watching it on Trovo and Kick. I'm on Twitch. We're on X. We're all over the place. We're on Instagram. Instagram users, welcome. Today, all right, so we wrapped up. What we did was an external strategic assessment of the all-in-one digital marketing platforms, right? And in those platforms, some of those platforms that that we used as an example in there were, let's see, I can't remember all the platforms that we were using as part of that. I think we were using Kartra, Go High Level, all these other digital marketing platforms. We said, hey, it's important to do a strategic assessment. If we're doing strategy work, you have to do an external assessment. Otherwise, just go ahead and lay out goals and objectives and don't call it a real strategy. Strategy is about understanding the market dynamics. What it is, how we're competing in that marketplace. And if you remember, everything we covered, a pestle analysis, that's the macro environment that we're operating in. It's just the overall environment. It has nothing, it's not specific to our industry, although we can make it specific to our industry, right? I put in the all-in-one marketing platform. And then we did a Porter's Five Forces analysis, which is critical. Understanding our industry, how easy is it to get in and out, and what are the levers of the industry? Do our suppliers, in our instance here, what we're using is the all-in-one digital marketing platform. The suppliers or sources would be like Amazon, at Amazon Web Service, where we're going to host your data and that kind of stuff. Bargaining power of your buyers. Remember, this industry, the switching costs are basically small to nothing, right? The buyers have a lot of power in this industry. Bargaining power of, so we did suppliers, buyers. We also did competition rivalry, very high, lots of competition in this environment. We need to be aware that this environment, there is so much competition, may not make the best sense for us. And then we had, how easy is it to get into the marketplace? So we did a pestle analysis, a Porter's Five Forces analysis. We did a VUCA analysis, which is the volatility, uncertainty, ambiguity, and complexity and ambiguity. We did scenario planning. Scenario planning is going to be your ace in your pocket now. That's scenario planning. It's going to look at our industry and find different factors there's a lot of uncertainty around, and it creates however you decide to code it, different possible future scenarios, right? We might have this interesting hunky-dory scenario in our little brains of ours that are biasing our decisions, but we want to, have other alternative scenarios developed for us to consider. And if we're being objective and unbiased, it's gonna be like, oh man, we didn't consider that. Remember, I got caught off guard when we were doing this analysis by how concerned the AI and the various models were about California's privacy laws and how can you comply with those, the marketing laws, and the impact it's going to have on business. So we did scenario planning. We did a market analysis, a traditional market analysis. Remember, the various large language models are live now. We can go out to the web and search those markets to see what's taking place out there. I showed you a unique prompt I have to do customer demographics and psychographics. You guys were blown away by that. The comments I got around that, around the demographics and psychographics was crazy, right? And just think, it's just a starting point to understand where we're going with that, right? So those demographics was huge. Now, what I've discovered since the live stream is my prompt, I was considering it for strategy. I've had this bias saying that people claim, have an aspirational goal to say they're strategic and strategists, but strategy is really about how we're going to compete in the marketplace. And with a handful of questions, you can quickly discern, who is a strategist or not. Someone asked a question here about what if analysis. Remember, in my bot that I created, I had a trick in there where I was playing stump the chump, right? So I had it constantly flipping scenarios, right? So I can run simulations about what that future looks like, right? So that was just someone just dropped that in the chat window. I'm not sure where it came from, but it can really strain it. And then when we take our output, we can redefine those assumptions. If we don't like those assumptions, or we think something was missed or something happened in the near future that affected it, remember, I told you once we created this beautiful strategy and we thought we had planned, all indications said there was going to be mass consolidation in this industry, and the name brands were going to surface to the top, and the mom and pops and onesies and twosies were going to be knocked off, right? And then the federal government came out and said, hey, if you buy software that has this capability, which we didn't have, right? Totally caught us off guard. We're going to subsidize, or we'll give you a price. Good thing I was monitoring our reports, but that wreaked havoc on our industry. Our strategy was out the window, right? It's kind of, you live and learn, right? I mean, you can't account for everything, right? And we should have, going back and reflecting on it, we should have accounted for it. And then we did the blue ocean strategy. Again, the blue ocean strategy that I developed, again, forces the model to consider other substitutes and things like that, the way I programmed it. And what I did is I took my previous model and my current model, and I had ChatGPT, I had DeepSeek, I had Perplexity. I love Perplexity, I love DeepSeek. I said, evaluate these models. And they said that by forcing the function, how I had twisted up the questions, I should get a 23 better percent report and findings in that marketplace. So we did a blue ocean strategy assessment. We didn't run the Delta model, and we didn't run the Porter's generic strategies, right? That was one big massive prompt that I did in the last session. We ran those actual strategies. Now, remember, as we were going along, I took my big strategy bot and I rolled it into smaller chunks, just so you can see the specificity, right? And we had roughly 100 pages of data that we need to sift through. But we know when we think about it, we can't actually do that. So what do we do with that data? And again, I am telling you, I only know a handful of people that have really done a great job as part of their strategy, doing these external analysis, right? These assessments, including the scenario planning. I think with the advent of ChatGPT now, the scenario planning is going to be the holy grail of what you do. And the marketers happen to like my demographics prompt, right? That demographics prompt was really intense. It gave you the demographics, gave you psychographics. What are their concerns? What are their fears? What are their aspirations? What's blocking these people? What sites do they search? A lot more information than your generic strategy, your strategy as a whole, right? So interesting point there. Let's so what I'm going to do is I am going to take the results that we got, and then I'm going to drop it in. I'll probably drop it into Perplexity, maybe ChatGPT, the new ChatGPT, and we can interact with it. So this is the first step, right? We shouldn't take anything that is given to us as gospel. Remember, we're thinking about the future. There's no right answer, right? There's no one predicting the future right now, right? That's going to say, here's what's going to take place in the marketplace. Here's how we're going to compete. So let me do this. Let me share this with you. I'm going to hop into this screen here, and I'm going to just give you a framework, right? Everyone has a strategic planning framework that they use, right? You'll hear the people in Lean talk about Hoshin planning and things like that. I'm talking about doing a full actual strategic assessment, right? So in the approach that I use, I didn't find one that was thorough enough or flexible enough. So I created one and I called it the AESOP model. And what we're doing is we're assessing our market. We're doing right down here, right? We're assessing our internal and external markets, right? And then from that, we're gonna pick up a strategy. We're gonna establish our strategy and our goals and objectives. And then we're going to synchronize it across the organization. We're going to, in my framework, we're not going to talk about it today. In my framework, I want to reevaluate everybody's metrics, make sure there's nothing in there that's contradicting, that everyone's aligned. We can cascade those measures down. And by the way, the framework that I found best for cascading metrics to an organization is the OGSM framework, right? Objective, goals, strategies, measures. I think that is a fantastic way of pivoting the metrics down. And I learned a way that I'm surprised that most people haven't learned how to use it, right? Then we're going to operationalize these metrics. That means we're going to put these metrics in place, right? Everyone is going to understand their metrics, and we're going to be able to measure, monitor, and adjust as needed, right? Remember, I told you we saw mass consolidation in the marketplace, and they weren't buying our product, right? The reverse actually happened. If we had not been measuring and monitoring our wins, it was taking place in the industry, we would have been lost. And then persist and pivot and so on, right? We want to measure. We're measuring weekly. We know what we're measuring. We're tracking our results. This is all about execution and action of the strategy. Granted, we have day-to-day operational metrics, but we want to make sure our strategy has rolled into those actual metrics, right? So this is what we're doing here, right? We're looking at our business market and our opportunities. Of course, we're going to do an internal data analysis. Everyone will do this, right? This is the easiest part of strategy. Give me my financials. Let's take a look at our financials. Let's look at our direct labor. Let's look at our indirect costs or direct costs or indirect costs. Let's look at our variable cost productivity. Let's take a look at our cash conversion cycle, right? What does that mean, right? As part of your strategy, I'm sure you're using the cash conversion cycle to understand how your business is operating. Maybe you're using the net promoter score. So you have your net promoter score, and then you have your clients, the individual clients linked up to the profitability so you can know who to move, right? And we've used all these tools, right? So we're looking at all this data, and all I'm talking about is right now is this external look that I feel, and from what I've seen in 20 plus years of the biggest gaps, right? And we have more and more. If you go on LinkedIn and start searching now, everyone's strategy, everyone's business development, yet I'm not confident from the people I speak to and deal with that they're indeed strategists. I think they're more tactical in nature. They'll get the results, right? When we're operationalizing the plan in my model, they're taking that and they're saying, okay, here's my metric. Here's how I can knock out that metric. Now, I don't know how you feel about it. I know that some people were really offended when I said that. They said, well, that's not the only definition of strategy. All right, make up your own, right? The sun comes up in the west and goes down. Yeah, sure. But we need to land on some sort of common ground that's out there. So there's that whole framework associated with using this strategy. And I think people are good at goal setting and moving on those goals and so on. But this external assessment is so easy now. Now you say, Dan, how do you know this? Well, what I did is I took some of my former strategies that we created, and I said, let me run this through ChatGPT and see what happens here, right? I was shocked. The results were actually better. And was I using ChatGPT or DeepSeek? I use a mixture of those, right? I really like DeepSeek, the Chinese model that people are all freaked out about, right? They're saying the Chinese are taking all your data. Well, the US government has it, and someone in the government's probably already sold it to the Chinese, right? I wasn't that concerned about it, especially I'm doing these generic strategies. Now, what I would do next, and I'm going to show you, we're going to do this live together. I will take that report, and we need to understand, is it worthwhile, right? Is this report right? So there needs to be some sort of organic override, if you will, to understand how that's report, if we're doing the right things, right? So we still need to do an internal analysis and a gap analysis, right? We need to understand financially where we are, operational where we are. And then remember, we did a SWOT analysis, but that was an external SWOT analysis. We can do an internal assessment. And then we need to figure out what we believe. If this data that we got back isn't right, we can rerun it. We can customize it with Chat GPT and these other large language models. It is so easy to do now, and it's better than doing nothing. At least it's going to force you to think about different options. And I know people that say, nope, this isn't as good as what I've done. They're reluctant. And the only way to know is you go run your strategy. We really can't do an A/B testing on this, right? But go ahead, have at it, right? You know better, you know your customers better. But I would argue over the long run here, as we start getting the analytics and the AI and the agents, we'll know our customers 1,000 times better, especially if we start testing the psychographics and demographics that I actually rolled up, right? That was really cool. So we're going to do those things. So let's do this. I'm going to go into Perplexity, and the first thing I'm going to do, remember we ran all these separate analysis, more detailed analysis. Let's find contradictions in that report, right? Because remember, sometimes, so for instance, when I independently ran the Blue Ocean strategy assessment, I had to, and the proper thing to do, you can do whatever the hell you want to do. People are already arguing, saying you don't have to do that. But I reran the pestle analysis, so it's fresh in its memory. And I reran the Porter's 5 forces analysis, so it's fresh in its memory. Remember, my approach is a structured way of coming down, getting more and more and more information, so that when we do roll it up, we can make that assessment and that decision, right? That's the way I like to operate, and we can weigh things differently, right? So it's up to you. So I'm going to show you how I can upload this into Chat GPT and just start asking it questions about other considerations that might take place in that marketplace. Very helpful. You can, and I encourage, I think if you're working with a strategy consulting or something like that, or you're in your organization, you can build your own internal large language model with all the relevant data, have it trained on the data. You can have data documents, SOPs and stuff like that. And then you can run it all together, right? A lot of these chat bots that we see out there are nothing but knowledge bases that you can constrain how external it looks. You said, look internal, and what do we do here? It will update the data. I'm loving all the strat bots that I have. One strat bot in particular that I have, I can link it to a website or go to a website, and it will go down 1,500 pages, and it refreshes. It'll refresh the content as necessary, right? So you can build a knowledge base around it. What worked in the past, what didn't work in the past. You can look at your data, put it into a model. There's a lot of fantastic apps out there besides the large language models that does machine learning for you, that you can ask it questions and so on. So let's take a look. What I'm going to do is, I'm not sure how many of you use Perplexity. It's a great tool. Let's use it as let's see. Oh, it doesn't look like many of you are using Perplexity. So let's go. Everyone seems to be familiar with Chat GPT. Let's see how this is live, folks, right? I'm going to go to Perplexity and see how this works out for us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the strategy document, and it doesn't contain everything, because I'm trying to debate if I'm going to use the prompt that did it all or the individual. We'll do both. I think we have time, right? I have time. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share a screen. Let me share a different screen with you. Let me open up Perplexity. Let me find Perplexity. And folks, I can see some questions coming in. I don't know where I'm streaming to 14 different places right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is, in Perplexity, I have Perplexity Pro. This has like a direct link right to DeepSeek, right? And it's not going to time out. Remember I said when we were running our apps, I was going to run it in Chat GPT. I could have ran it in Perplexity. And we're going to run it in DeepSeek. DeepSeek has so many people banging against it. The results are so great that it's timing out quite a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach a document here. Let me attach the bigger document here. I know that this document doesn't contain the Delta model and things like that. So you can see it's connected to Chat GPT. And I'm going to say review and analyze. Review the document and highlight different highlight contradictions, right? I mean, there might be contradictions in there, right? We ran this model at different times. Also, I had different creativities associated with it, right? Highlight contradictions, and we can just bang it, and it's going to go. If I knew how to spell, we'd be much better off, right? And it knows. See this right here? I get that little document. It's going to run. And what it's doing, it's analyzing that document. Right now, you can see it's using DeepSeek R1. It's going to use the DeepSeek model, which I really think it's fantastic, right? So it's running, it's looking at our sources, it's analyzing the sources, and it's going to help us identify some issues. Now, here's a pro tip for you. You're doing this analysis out there. What I would do is I have a template that I use that I ask my clients. So going forward, my clients will know I'm going to be doing it this way. I have a form for them to complete. I upload that form, and it's talking about their current strategy, what they're looking at, their current measures, what they believe to be their core competencies, and we can bang it against this assessment that we did, and we could find strengths and weaknesses, and to help them better understand where they might want to compete, right? They might have a weakness that is so weak that they say, you know what, we can't compete that way. Let's think about a different way of competing. All right, so here we have a couple things. There's a conflict here with speed and compliance, conflict, rapid AI automation and adaptation clashes with data privacy laws, right? So here's might be a problem, right? The data privacy laws, I'm shocked at how much it comes up with. Scalability and fragmentation in this industry, right? So for instance, it says here, demand for low cost, efficient scaling versus market saturation from niche tools. That's the threat of substitutes. Example is, it gives us an example and it gives us an impact, right? So this is phenomenal, right? And if you didn't believe it, you can go back out and check it in Chat GPT, right? It has, and you can train it where you want it to go. Now, the new Chat GPT Pro model, $200 a month, but amazing, the resources that you can guide it to go to. I only want it to go to professional resources that have been vetted, right? I don't want it to go to academic resources such as Harvard, where we know, what's her name, Gina, what's her face over there, has had so much fraudulent data, right? Or has been suspected of having all these fraudulent studies and reports done. You might say, hey, look, ignore that data. I don't have faith in it. I don't have faith in her. Sustainability versus profits, right? So there was a lot of talk about green IT initiatives. I don't know. To me, I would wait and I would give that a lesser of a weight and so on. So here we can take a look at this and then make a decision about what it is that we're going to do. Here in the scenario planning, we had some contradictions, right? So we had AI boom versus regulatory gridlock. We knew that, right? When we did our scenario planning analysis, it came up with these contradictions because it was creating 4 extremes for us. So this is all good, right? It found it. It's true. We like it, but again, folks, let me check the chat window here. If you have a different spin on it that or that your organization is betting on, you have some sort of special secret sauce, have at it, my friends, right? There's going to be an organic override here. So all those are things that we expected. Strategic implications here, right? Prioritize ethical AI frameworks, right? I think there's a whole lot of hooey around this ethical AI frameworks. I have no idea what that means and what it looks like. And as a matter of fact, folks, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Elon Musk is going to roll out his new Grok model, right? His new large language model. I have been using Grok all along, but it has a smaller output window and a smaller input window, and it's been fantastic. right? So Grok is another alternative. Diversify revenue streams to offset compliance costs. Let's see, invest in workforce reskilling and balance automation with human oversight. See, I would have a problem with this. I'm done with the human oversight. I think these large language models are going, as you train them, right? So for instance, I have a chat bot that runs people ask it questions. Number one, the critical thinking, how people ask questions is horrible. So we're going to need a lot of training in that. But as the responses and things come in, I can constantly tighten up the response to that chat bot, if you will. So here are some considerations. Now, we can say in here, look, like let's say we're a company. Let's see, our company, and remember, it's looking at a particular industry. It's looking at the all-in-one digital marketing platform. Our company is currently facing customer satisfaction issues. Our site is buggy, right? Our product is admittedly buggy, right? So it's admittedly buggy. Automation is way off on the horizon. Automation is in the way off, and I'm going to say way off in the future because they got to take care of this. Way off in the future, right? What recommendations do you have? What recommendations do you have for me? And don't worry about the spelling, right? So it's going to go out there and do the stuff. But if you have a template, and if you're a strategy person, I'm sure you have a template, the customers fill it in. You can push that template against this, and you can identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and perhaps using their core competencies and their skills, help them find a blue ocean strategy, right? And that's a big buzzword, but done correctly, we can do that. So here, immediate stabilization plan, fix core products first, right? So if we're developing a strategy, we want to make sure we get these core bugs fixed, right? So if you think you're going to start building AI and automation into your platform, which we know is critical, right? That came out as the most critical thing to compete in this industry. Be transparent for your communications, medium. So this is saying, here are the things you need to consider. And again, you can override this and say, we're going to do something differently. Here's a phased approach. And then we can start turning this into KPIs. So again, what we're doing is we took our strategic assessment, which was done by a large language model. That large language model could have been trained on your personal data or on other data sources. It could have had your intuition. I don't want to say biases, right? Because this is intuition. Your intuition building it, and it's going to help develop these models for you, right? These NPS scores. NPS is the most incorrectly used metric I see. To me, it's a two-dimensional metric. You start calculating your NPS score, but you also need to understand the profitability associated with that customer trying to improve the detractor that's not profitable, may not be worth your time and energy. So that's how we can start using this document. And then you can say, great, put a time frame around this, give me other key measures. But remember, right now, this is just the external assessment, right? So as we move forward, we can do the stuff that the other stuff is easy peasy, right? Looking at your financials, where are we? And again, looking at your cash conversion cycle. Everyone's doing that, looking at their cash conversion cycle, breaking it out into ITO and OTR or OTC. I know some people use order to cash instead of order to remittance. Fine, right? Get those metrics, lay them out. The Lean Six Sigma stuff, that generic stuff, especially that lean stuff, anybody can do, right? We're going to look at our processes and things like that and start looking for continuous improvement. But remember, this is about breakthrough work and understanding where our market is potentially going. So I just wanted to roll this up for you to show you what it looks like. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I created took the document and created an executive summary. So imagine if you're a consultant, right? You're going to bid on work. You're going to bid on work. This is going to help level set you and help you understand your potential customers' market, right? It can help you think broadly, give you some things that you may not have considered. So I encourage you to do this. Now, I also had someone reach out to me from the government space. As you know, a bunch of government employees, and I trained a lot of people in Six Sigma in the government, and they're out of work, and they're like, hey, you know what? I'm considering learning or I have some special sauce knowledge. I want to create a course, and I have to figure out what kind of platform to do it. So this strategic assessment, although it's not intended to be, I didn't intend it to be. It can be used, though. People are using this when they're evaluating a product, one of these products that they might be looking at. So I think that the number one product rated was Go High Level or ClickFunnels. So they might say, hey, all right, let me go out and here's how they racked and stacked. Here's the price. Here's the things that the strategy, that we think is going to happen in the future. Will these products, help us compete? So what I did is I'm going to show you. I'm going to flip open another document, and in that document, it's the actual. Give me a second to find it and open it. I hadn't planned on doing so, but what I did is I said, all right, create basically like a 7-page document for me, right? To help me understand what this industry is going through. So, and what we'll do is we'll go through just so you can see what it looks like. And again, this one pager, right? I said, hey, we'll just share it. There's no secret sauce here, right? This is, we're doing this for fun. Like, share, screen, give me some kudos, right? LinkedIn. I got like 23,000 people on LinkedIn there. So here, let's take a look at this, right? So I had it generate a report for us, right? Again, this one pager might be all that you actually need. So it says, all right, here's the industry. I put this in here, right? Read the warning at the end of this report. Let's just go to the end of the report here, right? A warning. This is an overview of over 100 pages of a document, a detail, of an analysis, right? You need to get more detail. Don't take this document, this short document, and think you're going to sell it to someone or implement a strategy based on this, okay? So let's take a look. This is very, very high level. Remember, this is over 100 pages long. So it talks about the tools that we used. It talked about some of the platforms that it considered, right? ClickFunnels was like one of the platforms that it thought was forward-looking. Kartra was another one. Go High Level. Remember, at Go High Level, if you start asking it questions, it loves Go High Level. It's saying, although they said, I haven't used Go High Level. I haven't used any of these any of these 3 platforms here. They said it can be confusing and have a tough learning curve, but it's an up and comer in the industry. And I think between, we'll see what else it says, right? So these are all the studies that we did, right? So this is what we should be doing in strategy to understand what we're doing. And we did a segmentation analysis, right? In this segmentation analysis, it's very brief here, but if you remember from a few videos ago, that was beautiful. I had a lot of digital marketers on LinkedIn reach out to me and say, hey, man, how do I get my hands and how do I run that segmentation analysis myself? What I did is I had it create this bottom line up front for us. In this industry, right? If we're looking at this industry, maybe you want to be an expert in it, or you want to sell into this, or you're trying to buy a platform. Here are some key risks. Data privacy, right? That California thing is crushing us, right? Economic volatility, right? In these platforms, can they really market, and what's going to be the adoption rates? Can these stay in business, right? And then accelerated technology is really changing up the skills involved here. Competitive risks, emerging AI-driven startups, right? You're seeing with the creation of these AI bots, agents, and automation, it is becoming easier and easier to create software Also, with advancements in APIs, right? Advancements, API was critical so we can connect to other things. It was crucial. Threat of substitution from modular products. So again, we have the AI startups. And remember when we did our analysis, the threat of substitute products and the switching costs are very good, right? If you're a consumer, this plays into your hand. And then here, I read ahead, increasing the buyer power due to low switching costs, right? Key market risk. So look, we have key competitive risk. This is how our competition is going to respond to us. And here are some market risks. We know that hyper personalized and real time experiences are critical. Cybersecurity is and trust are critical. And then market saturation in certain segments, right? Putting price pressures on. So there's going to be a plethora of aspects of this that are out there that are going to have create cost pressures and may result in a race to the bottom. Must have features. So if you're in this market space, you need to think about these are must have features that it's saying that you need to be able to compete in that marketplace. If you're looking to purchase one or buy one of these platforms or invest in one of these platforms, these are the things you should be looking at, right? Are they, do they have a lot of analytics, and can that analytics optimize campaigns, right? Is there omni-channel integration, right? Can it go out to my social media sites and report and bring back data? We know that's coming, right? Data security, data privacy, always a big deal, especially in California. Data, real-time customizable reports. Are my reports customizable? Right, so it's saying all these need to be baked in. And then it did this macro environment for us, right? So look at this. This is only 7 pages, but look how much more data we have. I'm not an expert in this industry, but after reading that 100-page report, the summaries, and then doing some follow-ups, there's some great stuff out there. Let me just check here for a question real quick. This can be run in any large language model. You just have to know how to prompt it. The prompting is key. I came back, I said that in that last video. The prompting is key. And this is just a high level, right? I know we did more detailed analysis. So, if you're joining late, that's what we're looking at right here, right? So remember, I had only considered this as a strategic tool to do strategic assessments because few people are actually really doing this well. And then what I found is there was another group of people, the digital marketers, like the demographics and psychographics, so they can market to that. And then I had some people reach out to me, hey, this will be a great tool to use if we want to go out and investigate a product that we might be considering purchasing or investing in. All right, so just lay it out there. Critical success factors, agility, of course, balancing. These are, right? These are kind of generic. We could go back and ask it for more details, right? And I'm sure it's there. Some key findings: the data privacy, inflationary pressures will challenge margins, right? So, in conjunction with that, with competition being so high and rivalry being so high, we might have a race to the bottom there in terms of pricing, right? Hyper personalized services, right? It said the new generation, we did our demographics, everything needs to be hyper prioritized or personalized real time. AI and automation's key, including the predictive analytics. That's easy to start building in. I have separate apps that are connected to different things, and I have that predictive analytics. That might be a good thing to partner in and bring into your system. Critical detailed recommendations, right? So you didn't see this in the last report. Develop AI-driven compliance automations, right? Implement dynamic pricing, right? You got to figure out how you're going to compete in this highly competitive market where there's low switching costs, right? And there's a ton of that competition is going to force that down, right? And here it says establish partnerships. Again, I think this green energy and these data centers, I think the eye is going to come off this, and people are going to be more focused about the energy that's consumed by developing these large language models and getting these responses. You just think about it. We had the same effect with blockchain, right? Blockchain is so computationally intensive. It uses a lot of energy and is slow. Industry competitiveness. What do we have to know about this industry? The Porter's Five Forces assessment. Critical success factors, right? Continuous innovation to reduce churn. It says it believes that this industry, with so many the ability for new entrants to come in, and the rivalry that we're going to see, and the low switching cost, your whoever purchases these products or services, you're going to find out that you're going to have to figure out ways of keeping your existing customers in. And then the strategic ecosystem of partnerships. If you can't build it yourself, you're not good. You might have to partner, but again, remember, you have to have the ability to get that data. So we're at a crossroads here where we can start linking a bunch of systems together, but that data is what's the real gold, right? Intense competition. Buying power is high due to low switching costs. We know that. Low barriers of entry to get into this game right now is really easy, or it's going to get easier. Detailed recommendations. So again, think about it. If you are a consultant, man, this is some gold here. If you're a strategic planner, you need to take these into consideration. And if you're thinking about buying a product or service, this might be on your list of options that you typically don't see being rated. We did some market research and segmentation analysis. Now, this summary really played down the segmentation analysis. A lot of people loved that detailed demographics and psychographics that we were actually looking at. So again, we have this little one-pager, really nice for us to follow through. And again, this is a summary of that 100-page document that we used. There's going to have to be some sort of organic override. You might say, no, this isn't really a consideration. We don't believe it to be the case. Substitute it with something else, or eliminate it and rewrite the report. There's a lot of things you can do. Once you have this data, the ability to do a what-if analysis, even though I have it basically broken in, is fantastic. And a little trick for you. If you're halfway decent at coding, you can use one large language model and pit it against the other, or you can have one large language model with one bias and another for bias. And if you know how to code it, you can have it go back and forth and ask it questions. Really, really cool stuff. Right? And then here, it broke out some demographics for us. It had the small to medium-sized businesses. What are they looking for? Larger enterprises, what are they looking for? So based on where you are or who your audience is. Agencies are looking for this white label customization, right? Some psychographics, some detailed recommendations. You see, but we can go through. Here's the competitive landscape, right? The disruptors, right? So in this industry, this competitive landscape, right? It's going forward and say, given all this stuff, rapid innovation cycles with AI and automation, right? If you're not in the game with this already, and you're going to fall way behind, because I believe that this AI and automation is exponentially improves products and services, right? So I think, if you're waiting a month, you're going to already be 3 or 4 months behind the ball. If you're 2 months behind on this, you're probably going to be 1.5 years, 2 years behind the ball, right? Brand recognition and customer loyalty is going to be critical. Why do I say that, folks? Why do I say that? Come on, work with me here. Because we just said there's low switching costs, right? There's lots of competition, and it doesn't take a whole lot of energy to swap off onto another platform. So if you don't have this brand recognition and customer loyalty, you're going to be kind of screwed, right? And then seamless integration with other marketing ecosystems. How can we integrate? And that's the API. So that comes back to AI and automation. How seamlessly can we integrate with other stuff? And then it says here, we can check this. This here, I cut out all the sources. So remember, it went out and sourced the documents, right? It tells me where things are, right? So ClickFunnels and Kartra are roughly half of the market. And then disruptors, this go high level, this came out quite a bit. They say that this particular product is really gaining traction, and it seems to be a major disruptor in this industry. So if you're thinking about buying a product or service, it might be here. If you're in this industry, you might want to check out what these folks are doing. And then again, we have these substitute products. And then it's given us some recommendations, some strategies, some other strategy, again, AI and automation technologies, user experience and platform capabilities coming back. That's going to drive our customer satisfaction. So there's lots of different ways to go about and look at this and put this into your database. And then again, take your existing competencies and see how well you can compete with this industry. So I'm going to flip back to Perplexity, and I'm going to give you some magic sauce, right? So go ahead and set your screen recordings. Go ahead and record this. So what we did, and let me try to find Perplexity. I can't see. Is that Perplexity that we're looking at now? Hold on, let me find Perplexity. I think I shut it down. Let's see. I want to make sure we're seeing Perplexity right here. I think this is Perplexity. The system I'm using is great. Hopefully let me do this. I'm going to stop sharing everything, and I'm just going to come back and reopen Perplexity. That way, I want to make sure you see this, right? What you can do here, right? Giving away a little secret sauce here for you. Give me a like, share, comment, whatever, however that works out. Let me find that review. We're going to grab this. So remember, we just uploaded our document into Perplexity, and we were asking it, to find contradictions for us. So folks, pay close attention here. So if you are, we're going to do two things. We're going to say, let's assume we're in this marketplace. I have a company, I compete in this market. Ask me 5 questions, folks. Ask me 5 questions to understand how I can better compete. To understand and answer to answer. I'm just gonna put forget the grammar, right? To better compete. So, right, you put it in here. It's going out. It's going out to the web. It's going out to DeepSeek, and it's already. If you don't know what to do, right, and if you're a strategist, shame on you. I'm just kidding. Give me a buzz. I can help you navigate this. It's going out. It's getting all these beautiful resources for us. It's going to start developing a set of questions for you to answer and put back into the model, and it's going to help you refine your strategy. Really cool, right? Really cool stuff. So it's going out. You can see it's reasoning in our model. And remember, I'm using Perplexity connected to DeepSeek, right? I don't have to do that. So here we go. It's off to the races. And in a few seconds here, think about how much this would have cost you in your day. I cannot tell you the amount of money I spent bringing in consultants that really didn't know much more than we did that can put a presentation together to tell us these things. So how mature is your current AI and automation integration compared to the industry benchmarks? Woo, right out of the gate. Bam, right? So, right? What compliance mechanisms do you have to compete? Bam, we knew that was going to happen. Which customer segment drives over 40% of your revenue? This is a big mistake, folks. I'm glad we're here. Identifying your current customer segmentation can be done easily with the appropriate surveying tools and mechanisms. You have to know which questions to ask and then have people prioritize, rank, and prioritize the features associated with them. I can't tell you how many people do this poorly, right? And there's a great tool, I'm not going to tell you that tool's name, that I use to develop these survey mechanisms that are mind-blowing. How does your platform uniquely solve omni-channel fragmentation? And are you leveraging strategic partnerships with AI startups and universities, right? And then, it gives you some things to do. Pretty cool, right? Now I can ask it the same thing. I'm interested in buying one of these platforms, buying one of these platforms to host my training, to host my website and training. I don't know, we'll just put that in there, right? Give me 5 questions. Give me 5 questions to help me decide. Just think, if you had a good bot, you can have that bot pop up and say, hey, look, I see you're interested in this training. Answer these 5. Here are 5 questions for you. You got the bot basically gear them towards your product or service, or maybe a different product or service. Right. So here you can see what it's doing. It's going out there and finding that for us. Right. So it's pretty cool. We can do all sorts of great things to help us identify the customer segments, right? Or you could have put in there, here are the things I'm interested in, in rank order, and it could help you decide which platform is better for you and some of the key risks, right? So how does your platform handle evolving data privacy issues? Great, got it. Why it matters, key features, right? AI integration versus manual control, right? You might want to look at this. You might look beyond the sales sheet to these other things that they're actually looking at, right? So that's how we can do that strategy stuff. So let's do this here. I'm going to swap out here real quick. Let me open up and share something else with you. And I think you find this, right? So we did all that assessment. The next steps, of course, were to organic override, make sure we agree with it, iron out the contradictions, decide really, all right, this looks good. And then from there, we'll develop our strategy, right? We'll go through and start looking at what makes sense for us, right? If you're in the industry, this is telling you what's important and what's not important and how to go about maybe to compete. The Blue Ocean strategy was very specific about certain things that we can do. And the scenario planning, that's the holy grail right there. Understanding which possible scenario might play out. And it's not going to be perfect, but at least it's going to open your mind to thinking about how you could potentially compete, right? That's the beauty of it, right? So let's share this here real quick. So we talked about the AESOP model. And then as you go through, right, you have a strategy framework. I'm just going to share this with you. This is my framework that I developed. I'm going to create your objective, goals, strategies, and measures. Note here, I'm using the OGSM methodology because there's a trick in the OGSM methodology that makes cascading metrics and the alignment of the metrics going up and down really easy to do, right? So we're going to start developing those strategies, and then we need to synchronize the organization around it. We want to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing it, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. I was in an organization where we created a strategy, a beautiful strategy, of course. And then we created our measures, and then we handed it out to the different departments. And guess what the departments did? Well, we're going to change the language. We're going to make it customizable so people can understand it from our perspective, and people couldn't connect the dots. So I get the idea of turning the lingo into a local language or something, but I think giving people a strategic acumen and helping them understand that the actual vernacular is important. You start changing words, people don't know what they align to. And then here we have operationalize this plan. This is making sure we're rolling it out, that we can measure, that we can monitor it. We have a cadence in place, that we have data-driven systems to ensure that this happens. So we're making sure that people can measure, monitor, and move this plan forward. We're not going to leave it to luck and hope to have measures there, right? I did a project in the government where no one measured their own performance. They had all these alibi metrics. Oh, here's I depended on this organization. They didn't get this to me on time. And I'm like, no, no, no. Where are your measures, the things you control, your performance? Oh, I'm fine. But these are the things that are really killing me, right? So doing those kind of things. And then persist, perform, and pivot, right? You need to make sure you're measuring, monitoring, you're performing these metrics. And if something should go wrong, the government steps in and subsidizes a different product. You can pivot off that to something else. And then last but not least, don't get blindsided by I'm telling you, I've been in the strategy consulting business for a long time. Everyone says they can do it. Here are some questions for you to ask, right? Can you provide specific time when you had to pivot your strategy based on real-time performance data? What were those indicators? How did you monitor it? What metrics did you use to discuss that course action? I just gave you one example, one very painful example of what happened to me. Right? Describe an instance where your strategy implementation didn't go as planned, right? Been involved in that, right? We had a strategy, we put it in place. We weren't disciplined in our structure of ensuring that people connected the dots and had a meaning where they can do a crosswalk to our strategy, right? So we had to make sure and perform these town hall meetings to say, here's what you're responsible for, and we had to switch up our methods. Explain how you differentiate strategic objectives and operational tasks. Here's where the people in lean get wrapped around the axle, right? In the lean world, most people are they're not involved in the actual strategic day-to-day operations of the organization. They always talk about, all these different planning approaches, right? The strategic objectives are at that highest level of how we're going to compete in the marketplace. These operational tasks are the things that we're doing from day to day. What feedback mechanisms do you have in place? And then how do you quantify the impact of your strategic decisions on overall performance, right? Can you walk through how we can track these metrics? One of the things I think works well, again, is that cash conversion cycle. Since everyone uses it and everyone knows it, right? That cash conversion cycle, you can start doing what if scenarios in there. And then what you can start doing is, if we do these things, here's the effect on the balance sheet, right? Your rookies are gonna take you to that P&L statement, the profit and loss statement, and hone in on that. We're looking at the balance sheet. That's telling us what the company's worth, right? So those are the things that you have there. So all right. I just wanted to put a bow on this, right? We did that strategic assessment. It was over 100 pages. What we had to do is we had to summarize it. We had to break it down and summarize it to understand how, understand the key things so we can understand it easily. We also talked about, we can't take it for face value. There has to be some sort of organic override. What do we believe? Is there something new in this marketplace there's a new dynamic that we need to consider, right? That might influence the market. Do we know that we have maybe some secret sauce that we're going to launch? It's going to give us a competitive advantage that no one's seeing, right? Do we pay off a senator or a congressman and we know we're going to get that big contract so we don't have to worry about it, right? There's lots of things that you can do. I gave you questions to look at. And then, of course, there's that framework. So I just wanted to make sure that we put a little bow on this for you and to help you see how easy it is with the right prompts and the right thinking to do a good external assessment of your industry and marketplace, because that is what I see often missing. And people like to use that aspirational word of, I'm strategist, I'm strategic, I do strategy work. You go on LinkedIn and ask these 5 questions. Hey, I'm looking for a consultant. Can you answer these 5 questions for me? People be scratching their heads, right? Hey, is that a stump the chump question? It's not, right? It's the scenario planning. Oh my God. The scenario planning is fantastic. Give it a shot, right? And of course, down here, I have my little bot, right? You can give that bot a run, and see, and it's been trained. I constantly update it as the models get bigger and better. So that's what I have for you, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. We're going to wrap up here. As you know, I am going to be putting together AI and automation for Lean Six Sigma, right? There is so much we can do with the chat bots in the Lean Six Sigma world and use that. It's amazing, right? I have a book of prompts, and of course, I have my bot created that answers all the questions for me of quick little ways that can help you remember some of the tools, right? Let's be honest. The Six Sigma world isn't what it used to be back in the day, the GE days, where your master black belts were had heavy strategy background, heavy finance training, right? They can do the crosswalk from the operational metrics to the financial statements. They knew statistics up in and out. They knew how to, how to ask the right questions to see if they're being deceived, right? And a lot of people have forgotten that, right? As much as we say data driven, you start talking about statistics and data and stuff like that, people's eyes glaze back in the back of their head. And even I can look at my prompts, people asking questions in my prompts, the critical thinking's not there, right? So you can have this as, unfortunately, we'll have to use it to lean on and to compensate for some of those skills. And, I don't expect everybody to remember how to do a binary logistic regression analysis, right? Just go in there, ask the bot, it's going to augment it, and off to the races we go. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. Any questions, drop me a chat, and we'll see where do we go from here, right? And, happy strategic planning. I hope you take advantage of this. Don't be afraid of AI, because either adopt it or be replaced by it. And I'm convinced of that. So have a great one, folks. And we'll see you in another live stream. I'll be doing probably one on AI